What's up, guys? This is Sudoku Warrior back to bring you yet another episode of Simple Souls. Today, we are going to be taking on the Duke's Archives Part 1, and, more importantly, curing the curse that has afflicted us. So in the previous episode, we died to Seath the Scaleless, and in the process became cursed. Upon our deaths, we arrived in a mysterious bonfire locked away in a tower. Well, as soon as you spawn in there, there is a lizard man standing right outside the door next to you. Punch him in the back, even with your bare fists, and he drops a key to allow you to escape from your cage. Immediately after that, take off all of your armor and let the first thing you see kill you. Because once you've stepped out the door, a bunch of snake women things aggro, and they're a pain to fight as you run down this staircase. I managed, being the wonderfully rememberful person that I am, to entirely lose that segment of recording, which was basically me running outside and dying, so it's not that much of a loss. Anyways, head down that staircase and come into this little area. There will be 2 lizard men and a serpent mage at the back of the room. As you can see, having that curse taking away a large portion of our health is actually pretty awful. You'll want to be careful with these guys, go for backstabs and parries to kill them as quickly as possible, and also give yourself a couple moments of invincibility. If you have a shield with good magic resistance, which is what those cobras actually function off of, their spells don't actually count as lightning damage, but instead magic damage. Anyways, just be cautious about that. You can block. You'll want to take every opportunity you can to heal. And yeah, just kill everything up here however you can. Those serpents function the exact same way as the ones in Sen's Fortress, so whatever you did there should work. Anyways, immediately when you step out, the thing that aggroes all those weird serpent ladies is this wonderful device that makes amazing music, which will drive you insane the first time. Anyways, these are the snake women naga things. I wanted to show you them, and I'm going to show you what their attacks tend to do. Stab you through with a pole. If you're not running on high health or heavy armor, that will one-shot you being cursed. So that's why it's a good idea to die and clear the staircase, so you don't actually have to fight these guys. So yeah. That was kind of a little optional thing. I'm going to head back around here to the ladder. So, as far as curing the curse actually goes, there is a merchant who's accessible from the lower undead burg. If you remember her at all, she does indeed sell purging stones, which are the item that are used to cure curses. So yeah, as you can see, when you shut that off, the snake women naga thing mages return to their little chamber. Just wait up here for a couple seconds before coming down the ladder. Actually, they do not aggro at you, which I was kind of scared that thing would come after me, but it turns out they don't. So, as long as that machine is off, you're fine. Curiously, those are apparently the Maidens of Guinevere. If you remember about the giant women with the giant body who gave you the Lord Vessel, she actually runs a covenant, and she used to have basically maidens that were her clerics and priests and stuff. Well, Seath kind of abducted them, probably because of their innate magical ability, pure speculation on my part, and decided to experiment on them and see what would happen. You can kind of tell it's them, because in the back of the room where they are, the last 2 naga, which never aggro regardless of the circumstances, they drop 2 miracles that are explicitly stated to belong to servants of Guinevere's covenant. So anyways, dispatch those serpent mages, heal up as necessary, and head to this ladder. All of the books in here, apparently in this game, magic is intelligence-based, so I guess having the presence of all this knowledge and stuff is really the big motif of Seath's area. That and the crystals, because everything is crystal, as you can see up ahead. Directly behind this corner, there is a crystal hollow and an archer who will begin shooting at you. Being that everything is crystal here, he'll do a lot of damage. These hollows actually do drop normal, not crystal, longbows, which can be very nice if you haven't just bought one already. Though we won't really be using them for this playthrough. If you have the crest shield, not the dragon crest shield like we're using here, but the normal crest shield acquired from the Undead Asylum, it can be a very major help because it blocks 80% of magical damage while still being very lightweight. Either way, run in here, and then be careful to dodge that sniper channeler up above. He does have quite the fun time raining down arrows of death and destruction on you. There is a shortcut up ahead that we're going to try to open, and you can just note that basically in every nook and cranny that you might walk past, there is a hollow of some sort. These archer hollows aren't very strong. You can dispatch them much more easily than their sword-wielding counterparts. Anyways, if you head up to here, there's another hollow right around the corner. Very easy to kill, no poise, and an archer hollow up ahead. These are just nice to kill off because they do tend to follow you around, raining arrows and sword swings down at you. Anyways, rotate this staircase, and yes, you do get invincibility frames while you are rotating the staircase. Keep your shield aimed towards the hollows at all times in order to avoid random arrows hitting you in the face and dealing lots of damage. Prepare to head across the hallway to where this wonderful archer is. And if you haven't killed the channeler from the first story, occasionally he will teleport up to right down this hall and rain down soul arrows at you. Either way, head up here. There's one more hollow that's really annoying that shoots at you. It's not really... The mages tend to stay below you when you're up here, except for one that's directly across from us. But he's not too much of a worry. Anyways, fall down onto this ledge and abuse those invincibility frames as best you can. Rotating this staircase gives access to a shortcut, which will lead us to the rest of the level later. This hollow has a nasty habit of hitting you in the face when you're trying to get down that ladder, and since we're not really carrying a ranged option, he can be quite the pain. As you can see there, he can hit you even when you pause to heal, so don't waste any time getting out of here. Pull that lever, and it actually, in true Dark Souls fashion, moves a hidden bookcase and leads you to a bonfire. This one, unlike the previous one, you can actually warp from. Professional edit. Alright, and we're back. Alright, now we're going to not master the rest of the area, but we're going to head back to Firelink Shrine to go to that vendor that I mentioned earlier. I actually don't know if there's any lore whatsoever behind either of the two merchants in the Undead Burg. I've always kind of been curious if they were related in some form or fashion. But either way, they serve their uses, especially this one for later in the game. You can farm up souls in at that last bonfire. There are a couple of hollows that are fairly easy to kill at low risk. to gain the necessary amount of souls, which I believe is either 3 or 5,000 to buy one purging stone. Anyways, this area is... You probably will not need any instruction getting through here. You will have the poise to tank through all of their attacks, and even the lightest tap of the tip of your weapon will kill everything in one hit. Yup. So we progress down this hallway. If you haven't opened this before, you actually have to go to the lower undead burg, fight your way through it, and just kind of follow the linear path until you find a spiral staircase on the inside of a tower that will lead you up to this location with the merchant. Anyways, the item we're wanting is a purging stone, which is actually 6,000 souls. They are pretty darn expensive, but once used, break the curses on you. If you have extra souls, this vendor also does sell a single humanity if you're just desperately in need of something to use to summon help for a boss fight or something. Anyways, the purging stone restores part of your health as a side effect of lifting the curse. So yeah, just head on back to Firelink Shrine again. There's nothing will respawn out here. Fun fact, the areas, even though if you've cleared enemies from an area in the game, and they're all dead, they can respawn even without you resting at a bonfire if you go far enough away. I'm not sure how far exactly you have to go before the things respawn, and I haven't tested it myself, but I've run across it before once or twice with just random enemies kind of meandering about areas that I was sure I had killed. Yeah. So then head on back to the Duke's Archives, which, yes, this is indeed a warpable bonfire. We will be heading off to the Crystal Caves to kill Seath now. This is a good bonfire to kindle up a lot, just for the purpose of, if you're ever human here, it is very likely you will get invaded. This is an extremely popular invasion spot, so if you're trying to summon help, be wary of invaders, which is, you know, it's always good to have Estus against unwanted invaders, unless you're looking for a duel. Then don't Estus. It's bad manners. Most of these chests in here are fine, but there is one mimic. That key unlocks the, there's a cell room in the chamber where all of those Naga maidens of Guinevere were before. If you're following Big Hat Logan's questline, he's locked in there, and that opens the gate. The item that the Mimic drops is the Enchanted Falchion, which is basically a gigantic scimitar. I love the Falchion's speed and its moveset, but the Claymore has a lot more utility. Prism stones here. There are invisible walkways in the Crystal Caves, but the Prism stones were meant to help you navigate them. Alternatively to taking the ladder down, you can jump off the opposite end of the platform and not take any fall damage. So, more golems. This is where you'll get really used to fighting crystal golems. Their attacks are very, very short range. They telegraph them exquisitely. They mostly throw punches unless they have a really long windup with one arm, which means they are going to swing a giant crystal baseball bat at you. Not sure if one of these guys does it for me here. A lot of the time, if you're on ground that is lower than them, their punches and swings will whiff, just straight over your head. Something else that I hope is fixed in Dark Souls, because Dark Souls 2, excuse me, because the enemies tend to have kind of bad hitboxes for some of their swings. The collision detection is excellent. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 different areas of damage on every sword and punch and kick, but sometimes the hitboxes are just a little bit wonky. if you don't take too long, you can actually run past the first 2 crystal golems without actually having to fight them. And that guy will often do a jump attack, which has a long recovery, which means you can often just sprint straight past him. Alright, up ahead, time for the first invisible path. Yes, indeed, that walkway is entirely filled in down that hallway. You don't need to worry about falling off ledges or anything. And just kind of meander your way down here. Since nothing will follow you onto an invisible path, or at least they won't take those crystal golems won't take the first invisible path, you'll be fairly safe around here. Anyways, at this location, it's best just to head from point A straight across to point B. You can watch, if you have a bow, you can shoot arrows in front of you to determine where it is safe to step next. If you're a bit more confident, you can just watch the snowflakes fall. This fight is a lot of space management. You want to, every single time possible, oh yes, that little AoE attack can be quite devastating as well. There's the crystal baseball bat I was talking about before, and an uppercut. That uppercut actually does stagger you and send you flying backwards. It's very dangerous to get backed into, I guess, what counts as a corner here, because your maneuverability space is so narrow. This fight is a lot about just staying back from his attacks. Sometimes when you're on a slope below him, you won't be able to see that crystal attack, but rest assured the hitbox is indeed there, and you can get hit by it. So yep, there's that crystal golem out of the way, and if we continue onwards, towards the end of that shaft, you start to slide down and off, sort of, if you're running. So just don't worry about it too much, kind of try to manage the sliding off that you're doing. Here, it's best to aim for kind of this little inlet right there, in between the 2 little outcroppings of rock. It's another straight line path, and nothing to really worry about. This chamber can be horrendous, because the man-eater crabs deal a lot of damage and have a nasty tendency of eating your face, in a very similar manner to the tree things. But, fortunately, you can stagger them with your claymore. As long as you keep spamming hits and staying out of the way of more than 1 or 2 of them at the same time, they are fairly easy to kill. Just continually block and dodge and block and dodge. If you keep strafing them, most of their attacks will miss. So they have one very fast attack that does not tend to miss, which is, as you saw a moment ago, a quick stab from their front 2 legs. A lot of the times, they will kind of whip their head back and forth, and that move is very easy to circle around and punish with a stab. This stab is one of the best moves in the game, especially because it comes out so fast and it's off such a high poise damaging weapon. So yes, these guys do drop Twinkling Titanite and Purging Stones, depending on how lucky you are. So if you're not feeling the urge to mine up 6,000 souls, farm up 6,000 souls and buy a Purging Stone, you can just farm one off of these guys. Again, never progress forward too quickly. Always don't progress based on where you want to move forward in this room, but watch the man-eater shells to see which ones are aggroing. And if 2 are aggroing at the same time, then back off and just lead them back to the front of the chamber and go after them. More Twinkling Titanite. These guys are an excellent place to farm them, and there is a Purging Stone. This one is a bit of a trick, because the the man-eater shell at the far end of the chamber actually aggroes when you get close enough to lock on to that one. And if you make too much noise by engaging this man-eater shell that's chasing us too far forward, the other one will aggro and turn around and come after you. As you can see, there's a lot of knockback on that hit. Feel free to use Estus here. Don't try to manage this fight too terribly with too much precision, because Seath is actually really, really easy if you fight him in the right way. Go loot the shell, nothing there, and head on to, I believe, the next and final man-eater shell. If you're playing a lightweight character, these guys are really easy to just jump around and smack, but we're not. We're playing a middleweight, so we can just kind of tank our way around. Alright, up in that wonderful chamber ahead is Seath the Scaleless. He's not actually there right now, but he will be once you walk up to that blinding crystal at the end of the room. Those statues, just as in the depths, if you've explored there at all, do represent people that have been cursed. Yes, Seath's attacks in here still do carry curse damage, but it won't be much of a problem because we won't actually be getting hit by anything. Fun fact, Seath was really jealous of all of the other dragons at the war between the dragons and the gods, at the time of the war, because he was born, as you can see, without the scales that make them immortal. So he went and hijacked their primordial crystal in order to give himself immortality. So he stole that, worked his way with some magic, and became an immortal dragon through his own means. Very interesting story. You can trick him into breaking the crystal himself, which causes him to flinch. Then run up to his leg on the right side, two-hand your weapon, and whack him over and over. He will constantly strafe to go after you. And if you aren't unlucky enough to accidentally aggro his massive AoE blast repeatedly, you can just keep walking next to his leg, which will keep you out of the way of his screaming dragon roar crystal thing attacks, and repeatedly bludgeon him with your sword. He doesn't have too terribly much health, and since he is a dragon, lightning is very effective against him. His music is a bit interesting. It's not quite as intense as a lot of the other bosses. He can be fought by, if you run straight through the previous room with the man-eater shells, you can aggro them and bring them into his arena with you, and he does do damage to them. One important thing to note about fighting Seath like this is never get behind his tail, because if you go on the other side of his tail, he will start smashing and flailing them around, which means you have to back off, which means you risk aggroing a giant magical blast that is very difficult to avoid, deals a lot of damage, and causes a lot of crystals to grow, which means it's very likely that you will get cursed. So just sort of stay near his body. Or his tail. Anyways, yep, that's Seath for you. Fairly easy to sort of cheesily beat up, but hey, that's how it is. Once you defeat him, a bonfire will spawn right next to the shattered crystal of his humanity, or dragon manatee. Anyways, as usual, just pump endurance from now on, or once you have 40 endurance, pump vitality. Peace.